One wrong decision, one moment of overconfidence, one mechanical failure. That's all it takes to separate 5 passionate riders from becoming tragic statistics in motocross's deadliest year. Their stories prove that expertise and preparation mean nothing when the sport decides to claim its price. It was June 28, 2025, when the unforgiving dirt of Mammoth Lakes claimed the life of a rising star whose dreams were as vast as his talent. Aiden Zing was a 16-year-old high school student from California whose entire world revolved around the roar of 2-stroke engines and the thrill of launching over jumps at breakneck speeds. Standing 5 feet 8 inches with sandy brown hair, often matted down by helmet sweat, Aiden possessed the rare combination of natural ability and relentless determination that separated future champions from weekend warriors. His personality was a study in contradictions. Off the bike, he was quiet and thoughtful, preferring to analyze track conditions and bike setup rather than engage in typical teenage social media obsessions. But once that gate dropped, Aiden transformed into a fearless competitor who attacked every corner and jump with calculated aggression. His parents had watched their son's obsession grow from childhood fascination to serious ambition, funding his racing through second mortgages and weekend jobs. The breakthrough came just months earlier when Kawasaki's prestigious Team Green program offered him a development contract. At 16, Aiden was living every amateur racer's dream. With factory support and a clear path toward professional racing, his younger sister Alex often joked that he loved his dirt bike more than food, and she wasn't entirely wrong. He spent countless hours in the garage, adjusting suspension settings and memorizing track maps. That morning at Mammoth Motocross, the track conditions were typical for late June in California. The hard-packed dirt had been watered down to control dust, but by midday, the surface had dried into a treacherous combination of loose dirt over hardpan visibility in the corners was limited, as 30 riders kicked up clouds of fine dust that hung in the still air like fog. Aiden was running 4th in the 250cc amateur class when he approached the sweeping left-hand corner that would change everything. His front wheel hit a patch of loose dirt that had been churned up by previous riders, causing the bike to wash out at approximately 35 miles per hour. The laws of physics took over as Aiden and his 250-pound machine slid sideways across the track. In the dust cloud that followed, 3 trailing riders had no time to react. The first bike struck Aiden's chest with devastating force while he was still sliding. The impact compressed his rib cage and sent shock waves through his cardiovascular system. A second rider's rear wheel rolled directly over his torso as the pilot desperately tried to avoid the carnage unfolding beneath him. The damage was catastrophic and immediate. The blunt force trauma caused blood to rapidly fill the pericardial sac surrounding Aiden's heart, a condition called cardiac tamponade. As pressure built around his heart, the organ could no longer fill properly with blood. His circulation began failing within minutes. Track medics reached the scene in 90 seconds, finding Aiden unconscious and struggling to breathe. They immediately began CPR while calling for emergency helicopter transport. For 25 agonizing minutes, medical personnel fought to restart his heart and restore circulation, but the damage was irreversible. His pulse grew weaker despite their desperate efforts. At 3:47 p.m., with his parents racing toward the hospital and his sister watching the live stream in horror, Aiden Zing was pronounced dead. The cardiac tamponade had claimed another young life in a sport that demands everything and sometimes takes it all. The remaining races were canceled out of respect. Kawasaki Team Green implemented new safety protocols in his memory. His family, devastated beyond measure, would later work with the AMA to improve safety standards for amateur racing. The motocross community mourned the loss of a talent that would never reach its full potential. Aiden's story serves as a stark reminder that in motocross, the margin between glory and tragedy is measured in milliseconds and inches. The 16-year-old who had dedicated his young life to mastering the art of controlled chaos ultimately became another victim of the sport's unforgiving nature. His legacy lives on through every safety improvement made in his name. It was March 9th, 2025, when the muddy terrain of Mildenhall claimed the life of a man who had found solace in the roar of engines after years of building Britain's infrastructure. Voytech Rosmus was a 43-year-old construction foreman from London whose weekends were sacred, dedicated to the sport that had become his escape from managing building crews across the capital. Standing 5 feet 10 inches with calloused hands that spoke of decades working with concrete and steel, Voytech possessed the methodical precision that made him both an excellent foreman and a calculated rider. His personality reflected his Polish heritage and British upbringing. Voytech was known for his dry humor and unwavering reliability, traits that earned him respect both on construction sites and in the paddock. His colleagues knew him as the man who never missed a deadline, while his racing friends appreciated his willingness to share mechanical knowledge and lend tools. After 15 years in London, he had built a life that balanced structured construction work with the controlled chaos of motocross racing. His wife, Maria, and their 2 teenage children had grown accustomed to their father's weekend ritual. Every Saturday morning, Voytech would load his well-maintained KTM 450 into the van, pack his gear with military precision, and head to tracks across England. Racing was his meditation, the one place where construction stress and London traffic melted away. That Sunday morning at Mildenhall MX in West Row, Suffolk, the track conditions were challenging but not unusual. For early March in England, recent rainfall had left sections slippery, with off-camber turns that demanded respect and technical sections that separated experienced riders from novices. The overcast sky threatened more rain, but the veteran class was scheduled to run as planned. Voytech had walked the track earlier, noting treacherous spots and discussing line choices with other riders. His methodical approach to racing meant he rarely took unnecessary risks, preferring to ride within his limits and finish races rather than crash out attempting heroic passes. At 43, he understood that Monday morning would bring another demanding week of construction deadlines. During the veteran class race, Voytech was maintaining 6th position when he approached a tabletop jump that had been giving riders trouble all morning. The takeoff had developed a deep rut from previous riders, creating an unpredictable launch point that could catch even experienced racers off guard. As Voytech hit the jump face, his front wheel caught the edge of the rut, violently altering his trajectory and speed. Instead of the smooth arc he had planned, his 450cc motorcycle pitched forward aggressively, sending him over the handlebars at approximately 40 miles per hour. The physics were unforgiving as his body separated from his machine mid-flight. He landed head first on the hard-packed dirt beyond the jump, his neck compressing under the impact, despite wearing a quality helmet. The KTM followed milliseconds later, its weight crashing down on his lower back and legs with devastating force. The combined trauma created injuries that no amount of protective gear could prevent. Track marshals immediately threw red flags while medical personnel rushed to the scene. They found Voytech unconscious with obvious spinal trauma and labored breathing. Following proper protocol, they immobilized his spine and administered oxygen while coordinating emergency helicopter transport to Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge. During the 45-minute flight, medical teams worked frantically to stabilize his condition, but the damage to his spinal cord was catastrophic. The impact had severed critical neural pathways, while internal bleeding complicated every intervention. Despite the expertise of Cambridge's trauma surgeons, Voytech's injuries proved insurmountable. 6 hours after the crash, Voytech Rosmus died from complications related to severe spinal cord injury. His family, who had been watching from the sidelines, faced the impossible reality that their husband and father would never return to the construction sites or family dinners that defined their London life. The tragedy prompted Mildenhall MX to temporarily close while authorities conducted a safety review. The local motocross community established a memorial fund to support Maria and the children during their darkest hours. Voytech's story serves as a sobering reminder that experience and caution cannot always overcome the inherent dangers of motocross. It was August 10, 2025, when the dusty hills of Solano County claimed the life of a man whose passion for motocross had evolved from personal pursuit to community leadership. Aaron Bissell was a 52-year-old from Reno, Nevada, whose weathered face and steady demeanor reflected decades of experience both in the corporate world and on dirt tracks across the American West. Standing 5 feet 9 inches with graying hair beneath his helmet, Aaron served as vice president of the Over the Hill Gang Motocross Club's Bay Area chapter. His personality was defined by meticulous attention to detail and genuine concern for rider safety. In the motocross community, he was the guy who arrived early to check track conditions, stayed late to help with cleanup, and never hesitated to mentor younger riders about proper technique and risk management. His wife, Rachel, often joked that he spent more time thinking about track safety than his day job, and she wasn't entirely wrong. Aaron's dedication to the sport went beyond personal enjoyment. He genuinely cared about preserving the future of motocross. Aaron's journey into motocross leadership had been gradual but purposeful. After years of racing himself, he recognized that the sport's future depended on experienced riders giving back to the community. He threw himself into organizing events, designing safer track layouts, and establishing protocols that balanced excitement with reasonable precautions. His fellow club members respected his judgment because it came from genuine experience and countless hours spent analyzing what made tracks both challenging and safe. That Sunday morning at Argyle Motocross Park in Dixon, California, Aaron was in his element. The track he had helped develop was hosting another successful club event, with riders ranging from teenagers to fellow veterans enjoying perfect weather conditions. The hard-packed surface was well maintained, and medical personnel were strategically positioned around the course. Aaron had conducted the mandatory pre-race safety briefing, emphasizing proper spacing and the importance of riding within individual skill levels. During the club championship race, Aaron was running a comfortable mid-pack position when disaster struck in the form of mechanical failure. As he approached a sharp right-hand turn at approximately 45 miles per hour, his rear brake line ruptured without warning. The sudden loss of stopping power left him with split seconds to react as the corner rushed toward him at dangerous speed. With decades of experience guiding his instincts, Aaron attempted to scrub speed by laying the bike down in a controlled crash. It was a calculated decision born from understanding that sliding was preferable to hitting the turn's concrete barrier at full speed. His KTM separated from him as planned, but the physics of the situation were unforgiving. Aaron's body continued sliding across the hard-pan surface toward the track's safety barrier. Despite his protective gear, the impact with the concrete base occurred at tremendous force. His helmet could not absorb the energy of striking an immovable object. The collision caused severe head trauma that rendered him immediately unconscious. Track medical personnel reached him within 60 seconds. They found him unresponsive with obvious head injuries and immediately began advanced life support procedures. The helicopter flight to UC Davis Medical Center took 18 minutes, during which paramedics fought to maintain his vital signs. His condition remained critical throughout the transport. Neurosurgeons were standing by when he arrived, but the traumatic brain injury had caused massive swelling and bleeding that proved impossible to control. Despite their expertise and aggressive intervention, the damage was too extensive. Hours of surgery could not reverse the catastrophic brain trauma. Aaron Bissell died that evening from traumatic brain injury, surrounded by his wife Rachel and their adult children. The man who had dedicated years to making motocross safer had become another victim of the sport's inherent dangers, claimed by a mechanical failure that no amount of preparation could have prevented. His legacy lives on through the safety protocols he helped establish and the countless riders whose lives he touched through his mentorship and dedication to the sport. It was April 27, 2025, when the red dirt of South Australia claimed the life of a man whose determination had already defied death. Once before, Joel Evans was a 30-year-old mechanic from Kingaroy, Queensland, whose calloused hands spoke of countless hours spent rebuilding engines and chasing dreams on two wheels. Standing 5 feet 8 inches with sun-weathered skin and piercing blue eyes, Joel embodied the spirit of the privateer racer who funded his passion through pure grit and determination. His personality was forged in the crucible of adversity. In 2015, a horrific crash at Murray Bridge had left him with fractured C5 and C6 vertebrae in his neck, with doctors warning he might never walk normally again. But Joel possessed the rare combination of stubborn resilience and calculated courage that separated survivors from statistics. His fiancée, Michaela Hurt, had watched him endure months of rehabilitation, never once hearing him complain about the pain or consider abandoning his racing dreams. He returned to racing within 12 months, despite having only 20% strength remaining in his left arm. The comeback story had become legendary in Australian motocross circles. Joel's return to professional racing wasn't just about personal vindication. It represented hope for every rider who had faced career-ending injuries. His mechanical expertise gave him an intimate understanding of the machines that carried him around tracks across the continent. Fellow competitors respected him not just for his speed, but for his willingness to share knowledge and help struggling privateers keep their dreams alive. That autumn morning at Gilman Speedway in Adelaide's north, Joel was competing in the Pro MX Championship, representing the pinnacle of Australian motocross. The track conditions were typical for late April in South Australia. The red dirt surface was dry and dusty, with good visibility and predictable traction that favored experienced riders who understood how to read the terrain. During the race at approximately 3:20 p.m., Joel was maintaining a solid points-paying position when disaster struck without warning. As he navigated a technical section of the track at high speed, his bike suddenly became unstable. The exact cause remains unclear, but witnesses reported seeing his machine pitch violently, separating him from the motorcycle in a catastrophic high-speed crash. Joel was thrown from his bike at approximately 50 miles per hour, his body tumbling across the unforgiving hardpan surface. The impact was devastating, causing severe trauma to his chest and torso. The same body that had miraculously recovered from near paralysis a decade earlier was now failing under the crushing forces of another violent accident. Track medical personnel reached Joel within minutes, finding him in critical condition with obvious signs of severe internal trauma. They immediately began advanced life support procedures while coordinating emergency helicopter transport to the Royal Adelaide Hospital. His vital signs were unstable as paramedics worked frantically to maintain his airway and circulation during the critical flight. Despite the rapid response and expert medical care, Joel's injuries proved too severe. The internal trauma had created a cascade of complications that overwhelmed his body's ability to recover. Medical teams fought for hours to save the man who had already cheated death once, but the damage was irreversible. Joel Evans died that evening from complications related to his racing injuries, surrounded by Michaela and family members who had rushed to the hospital. The man who had joked about not wanting to get old would never have to face that reality. His sister Renee later wrote that he died doing what he loved during one of the happiest periods of his life. The remaining Pro MX races were immediately abandoned as the Australian motocross community struggled to process the loss of one of their most beloved competitors. Joel's story serves as both inspiration and warning, a testament to the human spirit's capacity for resilience, while also demonstrating that even the most determined warriors cannot always escape the sport's deadly embrace. It was June 7, 2025, when the rolling hills of North Carolina claimed the life of a boy whose dreams were as boundless as his courage. Camden William Trail was a 14-year-old 8th grader from Bassett, Virginia, whose infectious smile and fearless approach to life had made him a beloved figure both at Magna Vista High School and on motocross tracks across the region. Standing 5 feet 4 inches with sandy brown hair that perpetually stuck out from beneath his helmet, Camden possessed the natural athleticism and competitive fire that marked him as a rising star in youth motocross. His personality was a perfect storm of teenage invincibility and genuine talent. Teachers at school knew Camden as a bright, energetic student who could barely sit still during classes, his mind constantly racing toward the weekend when he could unleash his passion on the dirt. His parents, William and Jennifer Trail, had watched their son's obsession with motocross grow from childhood fascination to serious competitive pursuit, funding his racing through careful budgeting and weekend jobs. Camden's approach to racing reflected his youth, aggressive, fearless, and sometimes lacking the caution that comes with experience. He rode with the confidence of someone who had never truly been hurt, pushing limits that more experienced riders might respect. His younger teammates looked up to him as the kid who would attempt jumps and passes that others considered too risky. That Saturday morning at East Bend Motorsports in East Bend, North Carolina, Camden was competing in a youth motocross event that had drawn riders from across Virginia and North Carolina. The track was well maintained with proper safety protocols, medical personnel on site, and a challenging layout that separated serious young competitors from casual weekend riders. Camden had qualified well for his age group and was running a competitive race when he approached the finish line jump, a feature that had been giving some riders trouble throughout the day. The jump required precise timing and commitment, launching riders approximately 15 feet into the air before landing on a downslope. As Camden hit the jump face at approximately 35 miles per hour, another rider was simultaneously launching from the same takeoff point. The timing was catastrophic, as both motorcycles became airborne at nearly identical trajectories. In the split second that followed, physics and fate converged in the worst possible way. The mid-air collision occurred at the peak of both riders' flight paths, approximately 12 feet above the ground. Camden's roughly 165-pound bike struck the other machine with tremendous force, instantly altering both riders' trajectories and sending them tumbling toward the earth in a tangle of metal, plastic, and human bodies. Camden landed hard on the packed dirt surface, his body absorbing the impact of both the fall and the weight of colliding motorcycles. The trauma was immediate and severe, causing critical injuries to his head and torso despite wearing proper safety equipment, including a quality helmet and protective gear. Track medical personnel responded within seconds, finding Camden unconscious with obvious signs of severe trauma. They immediately began advanced life support procedures while coordinating emergency helicopter transport to the nearest trauma center. The other rider involved in the collision was also seriously injured, but conscious. During the critical flight to the hospital, paramedics worked frantically to stabilize Camden's condition. His vital signs were unstable, and the extent of his internal injuries became increasingly apparent as medical teams fought to keep him alive. Despite the heroic efforts of emergency responders and trauma surgeons, Camden's injuries proved too severe. The 14-year-old, who had approached every jump with fearless determination, could not overcome the devastating trauma from the mid-air collision. Camden William Trail died from his injuries, leaving behind a family, school community, and racing family devastated by the loss of such a young life. His parents faced the impossible task of saying goodbye to their son, whose dreams had been cut short just as they were beginning to take shape. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the youth motocross community, prompting discussions about safety protocols and rider spacing. Camden's story serves as a heartbreaking reminder that courage and talent cannot always overcome the split-second decisions that separate triumph from tragedy in motorsports. Thanks for watching. Want to see more? Click on your screen now.